Hi, welcome to another episode of Hot Takes. Now, we know that spreading misinformation is wrong and will land you up in jail for several years. This, of course, is according to Sir Keir Starmer. And we're wondering why he has yet to make the police go and visit and arrest and then prosecute Jess Phillips for spreading false information. The same sort of false information that others spread and go to prison for. Because after all, what she said not only is an attempt to justify criminal behaviour, but may, to some people, have been seen as an incitement to riot. And yet, nothing has been done. Now, she has come out and admitted it may have been wrong, but she's certainly not apologised for it. But even if she did apologise, that's not enough. Two-tier Keir needs to prove that he is not two-tiered, that he's not two-faced, and that he believes in the things he says. And he can start by firing Jess Phillips, who's currently, of course, working in the Home Office, and then she's stirring up race hatred, race baiting, and inciting riots. Well, have a look at this. I'm not going to go through the whole article, but it's just an indication of the state that we're in. Senior Labour Minister Jess Phillips has suggested that she regrets her comments. Only suggested that she regrets them. And this is amid the Muslim gangs in Birmingham who took to the streets. And then she comes out and gives absolutely false information, which could have led to retaliatory things happening. And it's just generally goes to show that it's one rule for some, one rule for another, and that Jess Phillips seems to be above the very law Keir Starmer wants to push. Ms Phillips' comments, which saw a cross-party calls for her to either resign or be fired, which won't happen, came as Muslim men caused havoc in her hometown. Some brandishing weapons on the street, slashing tyres, intimidating journalists, and then going on to cause severe damage to a white male caught up in the middle of it. They attacked him, kicked him in the head. They could have killed him. And indeed, it should have been treated as attempted murder caused by Jess Phillips, who then goes on to try and justify this. Because amid the chaos, Ms Phillips said the masked criminals came to this location because it had been spread that racists were coming to attack them. No, it hadn't. They were just out on the street looking for trouble. And she certainly should not be condoning and trying to excuse criminal behaviour, particularly as she, as I say, works in the Home Office. I wonder if Yvette Cooper will have a word with her. After all, Yvette Cooper's in charge. Yvette Cooper's the one pushing for all these rioters and all these people saying hurty words on the internet to be thrown into jail for several years. Will Jess Phillips be in jail, or will she be given that free pass because she's kissing the arse of Keir Starmer? Ooh, what do we think? Should we have a bet on that one, children? Anyway, she then appeared to blame Reform UK Deputy Leader Richard Tice for the scenes, adding the information was spread entirely to create this content. No, it wasn't. Don't spread it, Mr. Tice. He didn't spread it. He didn't do anything. This was all Jess Phillips. This was all her making this up in her head to try and justify her position, because she knows, and she saw on the election night, how she's loathed by the Muslims in that area because she's white and she's a woman and she's got authority and they don't like it. And she's trying to appease them. If you keep giving the Danegeld, you won't get rid of the Dane. You should learn that, you stupid woman. And the only way you're going to learn is, I don't know, 3 years in prison, do we say? Seems about right. Maybe 5 as an example. After all, she is in authority. Anyway, yesterday afternoon, as you're hearing this video, yesterday afternoon, Ms Phillips suggested to Sky News that her tweet was a mistake. So she's admitting it was false information. Therefore, that is a crime. Starmer's words. And she should have been more careful with her comments. Yes, she should. And I think she needs to ruminate on that in a very small room for several years. Ms Phillips said, of course I would choose my words more carefully in future. I don't care. She said, I'm more than happy to say that when I make a mistake. Absolutely. I was trying to get this across. This gathering of people had been manufactured by misinformation. And that in itself is misinformation. And despite all that, not a one word of apology. Because Jess Phillips, like the rest of them, can never, ever be wrong. Now, Keir Starmer suggests and doesn't like the fact that he's being called two-tier Keir. There's only one way to stop that from carrying on. Keir Starmer must fire her and must inform the police that she needs to be arrested, charged, tried and imprisoned. After all, it's what he's doing to everyone else. Otherwise, the name two-tier Keir will, of course, stick. Yesterday, Tom Tuggenhat said Sir Keir Starmer had demonstrated a failure of leadership, which he has in refusing to sack her for the comments. Well, he can't sack her. He hasn't got a sack to sack anyone. He is smooth down the front. He's a spineless jellyfish. And of course, by sacking her, he would annoy other people in the party. And he knows his position is hanging by the thinnest of damask threads. One little breeze and the sword of Damocles will cut off his head. He is done. So he's got to be very, very careful, of course. Tuggenhat went on to say that that she chose to justify this behaviour instead of condemning it because these were not far-right protesters. No one is. There's no such thing. There's very few, at least. Put it that way. Most of the people out there are normal people. Labour voters, as it happened, who are fed up with what's going on in this country at the moment. And then there's Keir Starmer going, oh, I won't stand in Islamophobia. Islamophobia doesn't exist. Survival exists. You cannot be guilty of questioning an idea. Ideas are there to be questioned. Just because you question somebody's religion does not make it racial. It does not mean hate. You can reject these things because they're all bollocks. And yet, to say that for Islam is a crime, you can say it for any other religion and that's fine. Again, two-tier Keir. But here's the thing. People have rights, ideas don't. If nobody questioned doctrine and ideas and the thoughts that people had, we'd still be living in caves. Galileo would have had his mouth taped shut. Nobody would be having vaccinations because there wouldn't be the questioning of why this worked. And that's the trouble. If you don't question, you don't advance. And Islam, you're not allowed to question. And that's why Islam is stuck in the 8th century. And that's why anyone who says, oh, you mustn't question Islam, is also stuck in the 8th century. They're backward, retarded people. And that's the problem. Anyway, one man, he said, was attacked by these vigilantes and he ended up in hospital. And this was a failure of leadership, just as surely as those thugs on the street. And it's not only the failure of leadership by Keir Starmer's government over these last 2 weeks, it is the failure of the entire justice system. So there we go. Everybody's saying the same thing. Unless Jess Phillips, is investigated, charged and imprisoned, then it's two-tier Keir forever. Thanks a lot. Bye.